tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shishina Roll. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, some are calling it the end of an era for the city of Freeport, as a man who has dedicated decades to its development has passed away, and his death comes as Freeport's economy continues to struggle. This native of Great Britain was a part of that pioneer spirit that marked the early days of Freeport, and he devoted his life to promoting Freeport and, by extension, Grand Bahama as a modern city and a place for business. Tonight, Natalie Martinborough tells us about the life of former honorary chairman of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Sir Jack Hayward.
Sir Jack Hayward was an English businessman, property developer and philanthropist who was born in Wolverhampton in Britain on June 14, 1923. During the Second World War in 1941, he joined the Royal Air Force and received flight training in Florida. He served as a pilot officer in the Royal Air Force Command in India, and in 1946 he was demobilized as a flight lieutenant. Sir Jack's father, Sir Charles Hayward, moved to the Bahamas during the early 1950s and became the first partner of Freeport's founder, Wallace Groves. Sir Jack followed him to the Bahamas in 1956 and soon became the vice president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. In 1976, along with the late Edward St. George, Sir Jack took over the management of the Grand Bahama Port Authority group of companies. In August 1978, Sir Jack and the late Edward St. George bought all of the founders' shares and subsequently bought out all the other shareholders as well. Together, Sir Jack and his former business partner, the late Edward St. George, worked together to promote and develop Freeport. In 1998, a school was dedicated in honor of Sir Jack. For him, the Jack Hayward High School was a great source of pride, and he was happy to be the school's patron. In 2006, 2 years after the death of his business partner, co-chair Edward St. George, Sir Jack waged a legal battle over the ownership of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. After tens of millions of dollars in legal fees, the 4-year legal battle came to an end in July 2010, as all parties signed a consent order ending all litigation. Sir Jack Hayward was a man known for his wit. He was very outspoken and often controversial. In his latter years, he said his greatest project was his idea of a bridge to connect East Grand Bahama to North Abaco, but over time the campaign for the bridge lost momentum. Sir Jack is also considered a football legend, as he owned the Wolves Football Club in London for 17 years before selling it in 2007. Sir Jack was a noted philanthropist, serving as honorary chairman of the Salvation Army's Advisory Board, patron of the Grand Bahama Humane Society, and a lifetime member of the Bahamas National Trust. Sir Jack Hayward launched the YMCA in Freeport and was involved in the running of the Sir Charles Hayward Library that's named after his father. Sir Jack was also the founding member of the Freeport Players Guild. Sir Jack passed away in Florida on Tuesday at the age of 91. Natalie Martinborough, ZNS Network News.
Now, officials of the Grand Bahama Port Authority issued a statement late this afternoon confirming the death of honorary chairman Sir Jack Hayward. Officials say Freeport has lost the last of its original founding fathers and a great philanthropist. Sir Jack passed away today in hospital in Plantation, Florida, after courageously battling an illness for several months. Sarah St. George, vice chairman of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and group of companies, says Sir Jack is a cornerstone in Freeport's living history. A truly unique man with an epic life. She says she was privileged to work side by side with him and experience firsthand his determination, bravery, passion, and humor. In honor of Sir Jack Hayward, the Port Authority flag will be flown at half-mast, and a service to commemorate Sir Jack's life will be held in Freeport at a date to be determined. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, which saw Freeport emerge from a pine barren to the thriving city it is today. And the nation's leader, Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, issuing a statement on the passing of the honorary chairman of the Port Authority, Sir Jack Hayward, and offering condolences to the Hayward family. The Prime Minister says he is deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Sir Jack Hayward, a man who was by common acclaim the single most important figure behind the economic development of the city of Freeport, Grand Bahama in the post-independence era, having succeeded to the leading position held by his late father, Sir Charles Hayward, in the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The Prime Minister says Sir Jack Hayward was a colorful, larger-than-life personality who was held in great affection by the Bahamian people and by successive governments of our nation. He was widely admired for his candor, warmth, generous philanthropy, and deeply held dual patriotism for his native England and the Bahamas. The Prime Minister says he was passionately committed to the advancement of Freeport, in particular through good and bad times. He remained steadfast in his loyalty to our nation's second city and never lost faith in its future. The Prime Minister notes just before embarking on what was to be his last cruise, Sir Jack and his equity partner in the GBPA, Lady Henrietta St. George, joined him in an important conference call to discuss the way forward for Freeport. The nation's leader says he was struck at the time by how optimistic and enthusiastic Sir Jack still was about the prospects for the expansion of tourism and industrial development in Freeport. This, despite the increasing frailty of his own health and his greatly advanced years. The Prime Minister says Sir Jack remained a true believer in Freeport to the very end of his days and had been looking forward to its continued revitalization. Now, Sir Jack's passing came as a shock to members of the Grand Bahama business community. Some say it comes at a critical time in the history of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Joan Davis-Roll has this report.
A principal of the Grand Bahama Port Authority has died, and word of his death has sent shockwaves throughout the local community. The flag at the Grand Bahama Port Authority flying at half-staff Tuesday, signaling the death of a man who for decades served in the position of co-chairman and honorary chair of the regulatory and governing entity for the city of Freeport, the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Local business leaders expressing their views on the life and times of the noted developer and philanthropist, and a man many affectionately called Sir Jack.
He was a good man as far as I know. A couple of times that I met him, he's very pleasant. So I really can't say anything bad about Sir Jack. You know? I'm sorry that he passed.
How did you feel upon hearing about his passing?
Well, I was surprised. We were in the middle of our meeting and the word came in. My president-elect, she works for the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and the news came and she had to leave the meeting. So it was kind of a shock because I had no idea he was ill, or I didn't expect him to pass today.
The loss of Sir Jack Hayward at this time, I think, is immensely critical. Sir Jack Hayward has been a tremendous influence developer of Freeport, the island of Grand Bahama, and he's been involved in an integral way.
In the wake of the death of Sir Jack, the future of Freeport's already fragile economy is a key concern. Sir Jack was for decades a major player at the port and one of the architects of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. With portions of the agreement set to expire in August of this year, many are expressing a degree of uncertainty as officials at the Grand Bahama Port Authority now brace themselves for what many predict will be a new era, a season of transition.
I know that he has contributed to this community, the business community here on Grand Bahama in many, many ways, and I'm sure he'll be missed greatly. At this particular time, I know the principals of the Port Authority are feeling his loss already, his absence, I should say, already. And I think moving forward is going to be interesting for Grand Bahama because he made such a valuable contribution over the many years. Over the 50-plus years the Grand Bahama Port Authority was in existence.
Moving forward, I believe that the key is going to be a need for a transition to a philosophy that empowers Bahamians to take ownership of their economy. But with the death of Sir Jack Hayward, similarly we can go back to what happened with Edward St. George. Transition is coming, and that's why we really, as a community, we need to be praying for our city, for our island, and for the Port Authority, that the transition will be to empower Bahamians.
Sir Jack Hayward, OBE, dead at the age of 91.
In other news, a group of men hauled before the court today and charged with Grand Bahama's first murder of 2015. Sabrina Brown has a report.
Amidst inclement weather, the three murder suspects arrived at the Garnet-Laverty Justice Center Tuesday morning under police guard to be formally charged. The men were arraigned in connection with the murder of 28-year-old Kevin Harvey, Grand Bahama's first murder victim for 2015. 20-year-old Evan Thompson of Flamingo Lane, 23-year-old Garvin Major of Wisteria Avenue, and 19-year-old Andreo Smith of East Settlers Way appeared before Magistrate Debbie Ferguson. Harvey was stabbed during an alleged altercation with a group of men last Wednesday afternoon in the Coral Gardens area. He died the following day in hospital. While being escorted into the courthouse, the young men proclaimed their innocence.
Criminalizing people on here. Innocent people go in jail, yeah. I put it on the news. Take it to me. Innocent people go in jail for fair murder. My name is Andreo Smith.
The accused were not required to enter a plea, and a preliminary inquiry is set for March 4th this year. They were remanded to Her Majesty's Prison in New Providence. Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Well, tonight, Kevin Harvey's family is speaking out. They say while he may have had a troubled past, he made a turnaround in his life and was headed in a positive direction. Megan Shepard has their story.
Mother of deceased Kevin Harvey Jr. says while she is still coming to grips with her son's death, rumors have been circulating that are painting him in a negative light. She says while Kevin Jr. may have made mistakes in his life, she wants the public to know that he was remorseful and living a better life.
I understand he made a terrible mistake in his life, and I see sadness in his eyes every day about it, and we try to live with it. You understand what I'm saying? Now he is gone. I'm just asking that all the negative things that is being said about him, please, just let him rest in peace.
Hannah and Kevin's father, Kevin Harvey Sr., say that misinformation was also printed in one of the dailies, which claims that an incident in prison had, quote, messed with his head.
He didn't have a medical condition when he went to jail. He picked up before he went. After the seeing of the case, he was traumatized, and what he went through by seeing it, and to know he's trying to assist Philip Gator.
They're printing that an incident took place with him while he was in prison, and it messed up his head, and he was picked on by police. Nothing never happened to him while he was in prison, because I went there myself and I checked on him whenever I could, and he was in good condition at every time I went there to see him.
Harvey was one of several men charged with the December 2006 murder of Philip Gator Jr., and Harvey's family says they want people to stop associating these two incidents.
Let's close this whole deal with the issue about Kevin and Philip Gator, and it's like, it's a trend, like, you know, it's something just connecting. Ain't no connection here.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Now, as we continue our look back at the struggle for majority rule, the founding member and former president of the Grand Bahama Taxi Union, Onward Jones, talks about the role of taxi drivers and the role that they played in the change.
Grandma, Pa, and me, we came on the slow John B.
Freeport was never engineered for Bahamians to be in Freeport. Never. So I told Mr. Groves, I want you to know Freeport City will not be a city unless Bahamian takes part in it. Bahamian must be part of this. I says, it ain't gonna be no peace and there ain't gonna be no rest. And we went on for about a year, fighting, till one day I told Bishop, I said, Bishop, we have to close it down.
Captain Shaw, let me go home.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Dolly Madison, Freeport's original home center.
Dolly Madison Home Center says thank you for shopping at Ace for your hardware, houseware, outdoor living supplies, and paint. Thank you for purchasing your furniture at Rooms to Go, your TVs, musician supplies, and electronics at Radio Shack, your appliances from our Whirlpool and GE showroom, and plants from our plant nursery. In 2015, we continue our commitment to everyday low prices, quality products, and first-class customer service. So, come on down now.
Out, get hired. Enroll today at Pioneer Steel Technical Center for classes in welding, pipe and plate fitting, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. They offer industrial training, also after-school programs for participants ages 15 and up. Classes are Monday through Thursday, 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., light snacks included. Make that career choice, visit Pioneer Steel Technical Center or call now. Bringing news that matters to you. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition.
Welcome back. The Immigration Department continuing the crackdown on illegal immigrants here on Grand Bahama. As you will hear in this report, they now have tip lines in place to help with enforcing the law. The Ministry of Immigration recently made it clear that within 90 days there will be intense and consistent checks to ensure that persons on the island of Abaco are properly documented. While many are questioning what is being done here on Grand Bahama Island, Assistant Director of Immigration for the Northern Division, Hayward Ferguson, says immigration officials here are on the move.
We have been working in Grand Bahama likewise, but what you must understand is that Grand Bahama is not the same makeup as New Providence. Grand Bahama is actually a staging area for persons who entered through New Providence or some of the other family islands to go to the United States of America. And so from time to time you would see that we would come across some of them. Okay, and we are depending on the public to provide us with that information so that we can do our best to apprehend them.
Operations Manager of the Enforcement Unit, Jerome Hutchison, says that this island is much different from Nassau, Abaco, and Exuma. These islands, he notes, are seriously challenged with illegal immigration. Hutchison says illegal immigrants on this island do not just flock to one area.
There was a time when you can go into particular communities and find large numbers of illegal immigrants accumulated, but that has changed. You will find them living in the places where you never expect, maybe next door to you. So it's not as if you can just isolate an area and just go in. So that's what has made our job a little bit more difficult, and one of the reasons why we are inviting the public to call in if you see any suspicious activity to the enforcement unit.
Now, there have been several tip lines established to assist immigration officers in the apprehension of illegal immigrants. Before calling the tip lines, a certain information would be needed, like the address.
These numbers are 602-9761 and 602-9762. Any information received will be held in the strictest of confidence for those persons wishing to report anonymously.
Now, calls made from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. and on the weekend or holiday must be done through a duty officer at the Grand Bahama International Airport at 352-5454 or 352-5186. Catholic education on Grand Bahama making a comeback. Over the years, the Catholic School Board has been challenged by the economic downturn, which led to the closure of the St. Vincent de Paul campus in Hunters. At the start of this academic year, the two remaining Catholic schools merged, and tonight Sabrina Brown tells us that officials are optimistic about the future of Catholic education here on Grand Bahama.
Principal at Mary Star of the Sea Catholic Academy, Joy Ritchie Green, says the amalgamation of the Grand Bahama Catholic High School and Mary Star of the Sea in September went smoothly, and she's reporting a successful first term.
In terms of the high school students moving over, it took a little while for them to get adjusted to the spacing because they were used to a more sprawling campus. But in terms of just watching their movement, and we've just had first term reports and seeing their progress based on what we would have seen, it seems as if they're doing quite well in terms of the academics and the environment not having really affected them in that area.
She says the island's only Catholic school is seeing improvements in many areas. Since the summer, they have experienced a slight increase in the enrollment, which now stands around 400.
Even now in January, we've had some new students coming, and we've had a few coming in from other islands, coming here, choosing us, which makes us feel good that they decide to move to Grand Bahama and choose our institution.
Senior students told us how they were impacted by the transition.
Students adopted pretty quickly, quicker than most of us thought that we would. And the high school students and the primary school students have a pretty good relationship together.
I think that it's for the better because we can be good examples to the younger students.
The environment here is very friendly and calm and is very academically inclined.
Ritchie Green says she's excited about the year ahead.
We're excited about this year. Moving forward, like I said, this is the time of the year now in terms of academics. Our students are buckling down for GLATs, for BJCs, for BGCSEs. Some would have already done the first sitting of SATs in December, and so senior students, looking to do SATs, obviously finishing up those college applications. We've had a number of universities come in first term, and we actually have a few more coming in this week.
Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. Ricardo Lightborn has a check on sports when we come back.
Grandma, Pa, and me, we came on the slope, John B.
I had Pete DeGregory. He was one of the fighters as well. He did a tremendous job with us. He worked with us. Take me to Nassau. Went and get Mr. Pinlan. Mr. Pinlan was our legal counsel. Came back, set up a meeting with Wallace Grove. I had a meeting with Mr. Groves for 2 hours. And when I finished talking with him, I had everything that we wanted. We wanted our own bonded taxis as well. We wanted our own service station like Freeport Taxi. And I says, from here on in, Mr. Groves, Freeport is to be open to all Bahamian citizens.
Hey everybody, it's Sports I'm Ricardo Lightborn. This one is for Irene Morse down in Fire Road, Andros, and all my people on there. And yes, the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And she knew wearing the wrong color today. Here we go. University of Idaho offensive lineman, football player that's Cato Fox, actually spent a few days out here at home before he went back to school in Idaho. This is a young man that's grounded, and it all started right here in high school. Cato Fox is a 6'4" offensive lineman at the University of Idaho. But just not football. Cato is a student athlete and a good one at that. Academically, he's eligible. He earned an associate degree from Iowa Western Community College. He owes his success in the classroom to his instructors at Bishop Michael Eldon High School when he graduated.
What drew me was I had the size and the strength, and I wanted to try a sport that I haven't played before, see if I can make it far. And I always had that determination that, all right, I can always get a scholarship and go to school for free. But I really, really wanted to play football. I seen it, but I never really knew nothing about football, but I always wanted to play it. It ain't nothing like getting to hit someone on the field and you playing fun. So I really wanted to play it, and coming from BMES, it drew me to stay disciplined. The teachers there and the principal always told me that education is important. And when I went to Idaho, it didn't change. It was easy for me to stay focused in school because I learned the discipline from BMES. And I thank the teachers and the staff for always pushing me to do good in school.
His dream is to one day play in the NFL. His team is the Detroit Lions. His vision is to set the framework for other Bahamian athletes to follow.
I honestly see myself being a professional athlete, putting the Bahamas on the map. That's what I really want to do. Because you got some kids that grew up and think that being on the island, that they can't be nothing in life. And I think I was placed here on this earth to set that path for younger kids to look up to. And I honestly see myself playing in the NFL.
Offensive lineman Cato Fox, grounded in family and fate, football is his tool, the gridiron, success is a career plan.
And the American Football League, folks, has rescheduled its election date now. It is February 12th and 13th of 2015. Commissioner of the American Football League, that's Mel Ferguson, announced that he will in turn seek the office of president, and that's of the CFL. And to satisfy the interests of some of those individuals that might seek the top job in CFL, the election has now been pushed back until February. The CFL also simply extended an invitation to anybody, all those candidates. Nominations can be submitted that is Marty Knowles no later than January 30th, and the Jets, Stingrays, Pros, Kingdom Warriors, and Igmara Crushers, they're all going to be eligible to vote on the 12th and the 13th. And if you didn't know it, Mel Ferguson has some 40 years of football experience, and he's also was an All-State Florida player and played for University of Minnesota. Yep. Also tried out for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Boy, you can't make the Buccaneers team something wrong. I can leave that right there. That is. And I got to say to Sherelle Lockhart of the Freeport News, a hard-working girl, hanging out with Shoshana Rule. Girl, you need to find somebody else to hang out with. That's a bad influence. Anyhow, Delta Sigma Thetas, congratulations.